It would have felt like an imitator. He's come in and done the exact opposite. He's calmed it down. He's added a coldness to us, and I like that. I like that he's more, not tactically versed, because Klopp's one of the greatest of all time, but it just feels like he sees the game different to how Klopp did, and I'm a big, big fan of it so far. And long may it continue.
Hello and welcome back to the Counter Sports podcast. I'm your host, Darren Timson, and today I'm delighted to say we are joined by a special guest from Beyond the Kop, Lewis Aspinall. Lewis, how are you doing?
I'm great. It's been a mental few weeks, a transfer window which I still can't believe we're in the midst of, and it feels like we've signed enough players to fill a continent, but happy, doing good. Football's back on Sunday and beyond, so all happy.
Yeah, exactly. But let's start with the transfers then, actually, because like you say, it's been an absolutely crazy transfer window, and I don't even think that just coming from a Liverpool fan. I think if anyone neutral is looking at Liverpool's transfer window, you'd probably be very surprised. I mean, started off with Jeremy Frimpong, then Milos Kerkez comes in, then the Florian Wirtz saga-ish. Obviously, Georgia Mamardashvili joins us somewhere after being confirmed last year. Freddie Woodman, Armand Pesci. Where do you want to start with all of that? Because I imagine there's quite a few places you could run off with it.
Yeah, I mean, look, Wirtz was the very much... Don't think anyone thought that Florian Wirtz in a million years would be joining us. If you'd have gone back 12 months ago in the window where we just signed Chiesa, Mamardashvili on a pre-season agreement, and, you know, Rio and Gamoa, if you want to class him as a signing from last summer now, and said, oh, you know, they're going to spend 100 million plus on Florian Wirtz, you're then going to sign a striker in Ekatike, you're going to be linked to Isak, I think people would have said you were nuts. But the way in which he's come into this team, Florian Wirtz, and the way he's integrated himself, not just from an attacking standpoint, but his pressing, his overall movement on and off the ball, it's been seamless. It's like he feels like a Felipe Coutinho, and he's been a revelation in pre-season. As much as people want to touch on Rio and Gamoa, and of course Ekatike, and, you know, Jeremy Frimpong's electric pace, Florian Wirtz has been such a breath of fresh air in a midfield that at points could feel quite creatively stifled, be it because of the system, be it because Szoboszlai is not the best going forward, be it because McAllister's not that type of player either, bar the occasional screamer. But Wirtz feels like someone who's willing to get forward, willing to find space, and I think the way he's integrated himself into that midfield three, both tactically and just his personality, it's great to see. So I'm hoping that this can be the season that we've all hyped it up to be, not someone who, you know, starts off brilliantly and it's just sort of fades, like maybe it did with Szoboszlai 2 seasons ago, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Were you surprised that Liverpool went after Florian Wirtz? Because I think a lot of the season, you kind of alluded to it, there was a lot of the talk was around Szoboszlai and is he the right 10 for Liverpool? Jamie Carragher has been massive on that one, actually. You know, when he looks at Cole Palmer and, you know, Odegaard and other players like that, and saying that Liverpool need a number 10 like that. I was a bit surprised personally, because I thought that Szoboszlai, although isn't as creative as we'd probably all expect him to be after his Leipzig days, but I didn't think he was doing a terrible job. I still thought he offered a lot to the team. Yeah. So I was surprised that they went for the 10 straight away. I mean, Honest Lot's also spoken about the fact that he might play on the left as well, so we'll see if that happens. But was that a surprise to you, or were you in the camp that Liverpool needed a 10 and that was
I felt like we needed depth in midfield, definitely, but it wasn't something that I was wanting to break the bank to do. I was more concerned with who's going to come in up top, because there's clear deficiencies there. Yeah. And obviously this was before the Jota news and before Nunez departed and stuff. So even then we knew there were weaknesses. We knew we needed reinforcements in the back four. I'd have honestly said we need a number 6 more so than an attacking midfielder, given Gravenberch being the only real one there. It caught me, as it did with everyone, completely by surprise. I didn't think for a minute, when the rumours were coming out, that we were going to get Florian Wirtz, until he rejected Bayern. And then it just blew up into this otherworldly saga. And, like, you know, it's not like us to go out and make the massive statement signings. We did it with Van Dijk, yeah, and then you can go in the past, and people said we did it with Torres. You know, going further back, youth products, Jabril Cisse, when we signed him, that was considered a coup. We signed Harry Kewell 2003, that was massive. But this just feels like we've signed someone who is ready-made, but has years ahead of them. He's a world beater, and I didn't think for 1 minute that we were going to go out and spend 100 million plus when just the prospect of spending 75 million on Van Dijk felt alien to us. So not in my life did I think I'd see that from this ownership and the way we've been ran in recent years.
Yeah, and it might be another £100 million signing for Liverpool. It's definitely trending towards that way. So, with Alexander Isak, what is your opinion on that one as well? Do you think he is a player Liverpool should be targeting for around 150 million? Is he in that camp as well for you, where he's so good that they need to spend the money on him? Is that the kind of place that you lean on, or are you on the other side where they brought in Ekitike, get another striker behind him, and then kind of fix the team around that? Where do you land with that?
Look, I love Isak. I think you're talking about someone who is not only one of the best finishers in Europe in the Premier League, but he's also one of the best creative strikers out there. Like, his progressive rates are incredible. Like, per 90 minutes last season, if I can just find my actual metric that I had up here, it'd be brilliant. He provides plenty of creative action, so he creates 2.87 progressive passes per 90, which is in the top 19% of the Premier League last year. His passing range is incredible. His shot creating actions, he ranks up there in the top 4% of Premier League strikers. Progressive passes received, top 17%. So we're talking about someone who's not just a finisher, he's someone who's capable on the ball. And after Nunez for 3 years, who could score the occasional worldie, but was, he wasn't the best on the ball. His switches of play weren't great. His football and IQ just wasn't there in pressure moments, I suppose, bar the occasional winner. It's nice to be considered that Isak is the one to come in, and he's not worth 150 million. I think there's very few players in the modern game that are. I think the inflation of prices and price tags has just gone to disproportionate levels. It's ridiculous. But if we can get him for that 110, 120 million mark, while it's still a lot of money, he's worth it, because he's not just someone who can rotate with Ekitike. He's someone who can complement his style of play. He can provide for him. Ekitike was brilliant at Frankfurt when he was in an attacking duo with Mamouche. You put an Isak in there, and you can transition to a 4-2-4 with Wirtz drifting out wide. You can play a 3-3-4 with that same attack up front, Ekitike and Isak through the middle, and Kerkez dropping into midfield from inverted. There's a multitude of different avenues. He's not just a goal scorer, he's a system player. And I think if we want to sign players like that, we have to spend the big money. It's got to be done. But I don't want to see us spend 150 million on Isak, have the window be then, okay, it's done, we're not spending anymore, when there's clear deficiencies in the back four. There's clearly a depth need for another centre-back. And I'm all for signing him. I just don't want it to be a detriment of the rest of the team, because there's other areas of the pitch we also need to strengthen him.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. But we'll get on to centre back in a minute and the potential targets that Liverpool might be going there. Yeah. With Isak and Ekitike, again, talking about Jamie Carragher, just because he's so recent with it, he's was speaking about how Liverpool can't spend that much money on a backup in Ekitike and then go and get Isak. But do you think that Isak and Ekitike is a sign of Liverpool looking towards the future beyond Salah? Because you mentioned that front two there, and a lot of people talk about how Ekitike and Isak are really similar, but it does look like Ekitike has got more link-up play to him than I think Isak does. So do you think that could be a route in the future that Liverpool will look to go down? It's not more Ekitike into Isak, but kind of lean into Ekitike's creative abilities, maybe, and go with that front two.
Yeah, like, what worked for Klopp doesn't necessarily work for Slot, and that's a bit of a bold statement given the fact that we won the league last year. But in all honesty, we didn't play well for a lot of the season. I think there was a few moments where we scraped by and we were carried by Salah's brilliance. We're going to need to accommodate for the fact that he's not going to be here for long. He's only on a 2-year deal. He's in his 30s now, and I can't see him staying too much longer, as much as I'd love to keep him forever. We're going to need to bring players in to take over that mantle of who is our key goal scorer. And it's all well and good saying, well, we'll bring someone in to develop, we'll bring someone in to progress. I don't think Slot likes that type of player as such. I know Rio Ngamoa is doing what he's doing, and I know there's other young lads in the team coming through, but I think Slot wants people who can fit the system now, people who are ready to go, people who understand this philosophy. That's why we went for Zubimendi and not some young potential number 6 for the future. because he wants the ready-made article. Signing an Isak, and like you said perfectly, like an Ekitike, who's got brilliant link-up play, someone who ranked in the top 4% of progressive carries for all attackers across Europe's top 5 leagues last season, and for progressive passes received as well. Him and Isak having those similar play styles, both feeding off each other, both capable of playing in a front two if you need them to, that could lead to 50, 60 goals combined through the season. That's a good number to look at replacing Mo Salah when he does eventually depart. He, last season, produced the numbers he did in spite of having Darwin Núñez. So having him and Isak and Ekitike in this front line will send us above and beyond. And then eventually, when he does move on, Ngamo is going to be a bit more experienced. There may be a new left winger come in, like Barcola, even though that's unlikely. Maybe a Rodrigo, even though that's unlikely. And we can develop from there. It's something we need to start doing in defence. It's something we need to start doing in attack. Use these 2-year contracts that we've given them as time to prepare for the future. Don't just rest on it. We've got to act now, or we're going to end up in the same situation as we've just had this summer, where we're in a major panic about signing them up for contracts. And yeah, like we've seen with Trent.
Yeah, we'll go on to that defence, because that's also another area where the contracts are getting a bit perilous with Ibu Konate. But so one of the players that Liverpool have been linked to, obviously, this summer is Mark Gay from Crystal Palace. They play them in the Charity Shield this Sunday, of course. Do you think he's the right target for Liverpool? Do you think there's a reason they haven't moved maybe quicker to get Guehi in? Is there anyone else you would think would suit that defence? I know this morning you've done a video on Giovanni Leone. Is he a player that you would like to see Liverpool bring in?
Yeah, look, Guehi is a brilliant talent. He's a leader. He's capable on the ball. He is just a bit weak in the air. And I suppose from a defensive standpoint, he's good, but he's not like the brick. Like he's a very good player. And I'd be happy if we brought him in. He's ready to go. But Palace is still tight on a lot of money, even though he's got 1 year left on his contract. Chelsea have a 20% sell-on clause, I believe it is. So any money you give Palace, they're going to add extra to accommodate for that. Failing Guehi, I'd love a Castello Luqueba. I think he'd be brilliant to bring in from RB Leipzig, one of the best progressive centre-backs in Europe, not just statistically, but just on the eye. He's brilliant. Giovanni Leone, look, I made the case on my channel that I'd happily bring him in because I think he's someone who is ready to go now, and he's 19 and he looks like he can progress into something big. But he's only got 29 games under his belt of top-flight experience. We need someone like a Guehi to come in, because Konate, like you said, it's not just next summer. He could get injured. Van Dijk could get ill again. Like, there's all sorts of things that could happen, and we need someone who can come in, immediately fit that back four, and just hit the ground running. Not a project, not someone who could be a long-term solution. If we're going to sign Leone, we need someone else, and I'd happily have it as a Mark Guehi. He's a leader, FA Cup winner, England international, who, when you consider the defenders who've been around him, like a John Stones, a Kyle Walker in recent years, just to name the first two that come on my mind, he doesn't look out of place. He fits the mould brilliantly, so he'd be my ideal candidate, with a Leone as a potential fourth choice centre-back in the next year or so, if he's available.
So it's... Yeah, I think I agree with that as well. You because especially with Konate, he had his season, was it the first time he crossed 3,000 minutes in a campaign for Liverpool across the season? So if not Guehi, if Liverpool don't want to go to Palace's number, or Palace don't want to come down on their number, who would you look at that Liverpool should be bringing in who fits that ready-made backup role?
So I said quite recently on another thing, I would happily have Castello Luqueba from RB Leipzig. He is come from Lyon. He's got a lot of experience under his belt. He was in an RB Leipzig team last season, which finished 8th, I believe it was. Didn't have the best campaign. They scored the fewest goals they had since 2014 when they were in Bundesliga 2. But as an overall defender, he's one of the best progressive players of the ball, one of the most comfortable defenders that you can find on a football in Europe, arguably. Like, his overall passes attempted, top 18% for Europe. Live ball passes, top 17%. His switches of play, he's only 0.07 behind Virgil van Dijk. He's so similar in the way in which he plays. He can play on the left, he can play on the right. He's an ambidextrous player, capable on his left foot, right foot. but is also progressive passes forward. He wants to find a midfielder, a defensive midfielder like a Gravenberch who we can get the ball to as quick as possible to set us up on the attack. And I just think every single bit of what I've said there fits on a slot system. He would be fairly expensive. He does get the occasional knock. I can't remember how many games he missed last season. I think it was 10, which is 2 more than Konate. But I think he'd be a brilliant one we could bring in who, if you want someone who fits the system, more so than being a brick wall of a defender, he's the man for it. He's not the strongest player in the world, but he's incredibly quick, comfortable on the ball, likes to progress from the back and build up to the midfield. I think he'd be a brilliant addition to bring to this squad if we couldn't get Gahey.
Do you think potentially him being left-footed could be a bit of a knock because of him, because of where Van Dijk plays?
Yeah.
Probably he won't. There's also the left-back situation, which we'll get onto in a minute as well, as we have 3 of them. So currently in that situation, would he have minutes there?
Yeah.
Do you think that would be a problem, or would you want to work around that?
As in having the free left backs.
Yeah, and him playing on the same side as Van Dijk as well.
Well, like I said, he's left-footed and right-footed. He is predominantly left, but at RB Leipzig, in attacking transitions, not this season, just gone the one before, they'd often end up in a back 3, and he'd sometimes play in the middle, occasionally play on the right-hand side. So he's very good in that manner. He is very flexible. Van Dijk, like I said, he's only going to be here like a couple of years. This could be his last contract. He could leave in 2 years. We just don't know. I don't want him to, but yeah, he's 34. Is what it is. You need someone who's going to take over that mantle. And while I said Giovanni Leone could be that player because he's a physical monster, Luke Haber has that pace about him. He's got that energy. He's got that composure on the ball that Van Dijk has. He plays such a similar style where he doesn't rely on completely getting stuck in. He just knows where to position himself for the game. He takes it in a stride. Great passer of the ball. Switches, as I said, he's near Van Dijk's level. So yeah, he would have to maybe operate on the right at points, but Van Dijk's going to need rotation also, so he can start to integrate him on the left Arne slot. And when Van Dijk does inevitably move on, you could have someone there then who's had 2 years of experience under his belt, has learned slot system, which suits the way he plays, and you might have your Van Dijk successor then ready to go. And the only other area of the pitch needing strengthening, the other side of centre-back, which, we've got to sort out sooner rather than later if Konate is leaving or not. But yeah, I think Luke Haber would be perfect for us going forward.
Yeah, agreed. He is a very interesting, talented player. On to a couple of exits, because I just brought it up there with the left-back situation. It doesn't really look like either of them are willing to leave. Obviously, Darwin Núñez and Luis Diaz has left in the last week or so. Harvey Elliott could also be potentially on his way out as well. Tyler Morton's just gone. Ben Doak has some suitors apparently in West Ham and Wolves.
Yeah.
What have you made of the sales Liverpool have made? Because I think that's also equally as important as the signings. Already, 200 million they've brought in this summer.
Yeah.
What have you made so far, and what do you think is to come in the next few weeks?
Well, there's no one we've sold who I've looked at and said, I'm really disappointed they've left. Or anyone who we've sold and have gone, why have we sold him? Like, if you got Keane Kelleher, made complete sense to sell him. He, too good to be a backup. Mamardashvili's there. Luis Diaz, I love Luis Diaz, but it was the purple patches of form for me. It made sense to move him on. He's 29 years old, 2 years left on his deal. The value we were getting from buying for him was a no-brainer. He was only going to decrease in value. We weren't going to give him a new contract. It made complete sense. Núñez, it speaks for itself. And there was another one. Trent going was just inevitable. So, I'm not disappointed with any of them. The sales we've made, Jarell Quansah as well, that was the one I was getting. Jarell Quansah, I was a bit surprised. I would have liked to have kept him. I've kept him, I think, 2 seasons of experience with us. Maybe they didn't justify it, but there's a buyback clause. I think it's been good business in terms of what we've sold so far, in terms of the players that have departed. Engamo has got his pathway into the team. We've strengthened in Ekatike. Now Isak could potentially come in. Centre-back, it's an issue. I get that. But goalkeeper's not changed any different. If anything, you could even debate it's stronger now.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with it. Losing Doak, I'd be disappointed by. I think he's, with Salah going to AFCON, I know Slot was saying that Frimpong could play the right wing, but Conor Bradley's got an injury history, so you're going to need Frimpong to probably be a starting right back at points to keep Bradley fit. And then when Salah goes to AFCON, you've got no natural right winger, really. Chiesa's not going to stick around. I just don't want to leave ourselves too short. That's my only worry. If we're in this same situation now, I would be keeping Harvey Elliott. I would be keeping Ben Doak. If we have targets coming in, if we can get people in, like an Isak or anything like that, fine. But I think we've sold enough for the moment. Let's not go nuts and completely shortchange ourselves and then not have enough depth in reinforcements to come in. Just steady on with it. Don't go mental now and just sell everyone before we've got people in.
So would you like to see a replacement for Harvey Elliott? If say Liverpool do bring in Alexander Isak, do you think that would be enough? Because I think I'm leaning towards that's probably okay. In the forward line, Ekitike, Isak, Salah, Gakpo, Wirtz, and Gamora as a sixth. I'd like to see. If Elliott goes, would you like a replacement there? Because if then Wirtz is going to be the 10, would you like maybe a 10 right wing sub potentially for Salah when he goes to AFCON? Or would you sell Elliott and kind of keep it as that?
Sell Elliott and then I think keep it as that. The reason Chiesa is leaving, A, I think he misses Italy, but B, just didn't get game time because Salah's just the freak of nature he is. No one's going to join us being told, right, Salah's going to play all the time, but there's this 6-game gap where you're going to get all the game time, and then when he comes back, you're back on the bench. No one's going to do that. Elliott's fallen down the pecking order now that Wirtz is here. I would rather sell him and maybe start to look at pushing Trainioni more into the starting team. Maybe James McConnell could get into there a little bit more. There's suitable backup options. We've got more than enough depth at the moment. You've still got Curtis Jones, who people keep forgetting exists. Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai, Wirtz, Nioni, McConnell. That's plenty of midfield options. So I think if we were to sell Elliott, don't strengthen that part anymore. Because it's not like you're selling a regular first teamer. You're selling someone who at the moment's like the 5th choice, maybe 4th choice. So yeah, it's not an urgent thing that we immediately replace Harvey Elliott. Use the money that we get from him, strengthening centre-back, strengthening other areas of the pitch.
On to something you alluded to there a minute ago as well, as Conor Bradley's injury issues. Looks like he's going to miss Sunday's game as it stands right now. With Frimpong coming in, where were you thinking of who was going to be the starting right back this year? Did you look at Frimpong as coming in as a starter, or did you look at Bradley and thought that he could take that mantle off of Trent? But with then Conor Bradley's injury issues already at the start of the season, which is not ideal at all, do you think there's a case for Frimpong either way to not make himself that starter?
I mean, look, he's a summer signing. He's come from a Bayer Leverkusen team who did the invincible season, almost won a treble. So he's going to get a lot of game time. I think that when Bradley got the new contract, in my mind, that was me saying, yeah, he's going to be the starter. Because I think Slot's seen a lot of him. He really likes him. He's very good going forward, going inverted. He's a very aggressive player and he's solid defensively. But Frimpong in this pre-season just feels like he adds so much to the attack that he feels undroppable at the moment. Even if Bradley's fit, it just feels like Jeremy Frimpong, the way he's performed against Bilbao, Yokohama, all our pre-season matches, he looks top tier. And dropping him now while he's in this kind of form, albeit pre-season, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. When Trent came through, Trent got his position in the team because Nathaniel Klein was injured. Maybe we could see something similar here. Bradley's getting knocks and niggles and going out. Like someone said online that it's a really good point. He doesn't get serious injuries. He gets 3 to 4 week long injuries. So consistently. So you're going to need someone who's ready made to come in. Frimpong, for me, the way he's performed just justifies him being the regular starter at the moment. Maybe against a sort of, I don't know, like a City, I could maybe see Bradley coming in a bit more defensively solid, not so much an attacking threat. But against those teams like who's really open at the back, like United or something at the moment, or any team that really presses high, like Bournemouth, for example, Jeremy Frimpong is the ideal man for that job, for breaking space and finding gaps in behind the defence. Bradley, for me, feels a bit more like you're up against it, you need solid defensive work, you're going to be like on the ball a lot, or you're not going to have a lot of the ball. You're going to be in a defensive mindset like we were at the Etihad last season. That feels like Conor Bradley's game. But I think at the moment, Jeremy Frimpong is the definitive starter for us at the moment.
What would you make of that then, as him being a right wing cover for Salah as well? If with Bradley's injury issues, you mentioned Athcon as well when
Yeah.
Salah goes. So, like you said the Frimpong could be an option there. Would that worry you slightly as well? If Salah goes, Frimpong plays at right wing, and then Bradley gets injured, would that be a concern for you?
Yeah, this is what I was saying before. Like I get the idea that he can play there, but Bradley's injury record, Salah, like I'd rather a natural right winger. This is why I'm not on board with the sell Ben Doak for 20 million thing.
Yeah.
I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. He can play in that high press. We've seen that Frimpong throughout preseason alone. But I think he's more effective when he's running into space, not when he's already up there, not when he's having to stay at right wing. Because Salah tends not to track back, maybe Frimpong would. But then what are you losing? You're losing that constant threat up top. It's not my personal preference. It just feels like a sort of a get out of jail quick. We just need someone to stick in that position. So it's not my preference for how I would do things. And I'd rather just keep Ben Doak, let him be the rotation to Salah, get game time as and when he does, whenever the rare occasion props up. He's still only 19. Like, he's not going to make too much of a fuss.
So, just before we get into looking at the season, a few weeks left of the transfer window now, August 8th. What would you expect Liverpool to do by the time the transfer window closes?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I'd expect Isak, the way things have been going. Do I think we will? I think we're in a reactionary state now, where we're not buying anyone unless we sell, and we're not going to sign Isak unless Newcastle gets someone. So I think for the moment we're sort of twiddling our thumbs and just waiting for things to happen, which fine. I'm okay with that. I expect us to get a centre back. I do think that has to be an urgent requirement. I know Slot was saying today about Gravenberch can play there, Endo can play there. No, I don't. Endo, fine, I get it. He's more of a centre back than he is a CDM. But Ryan Gravenberch, not a CDM, not a defence centre back for me.
Not
That
a
needs to
Robertson
be
there, no?
strengthened. No, look, Robertson's good, but he struggled against Bilbao. I think he actually almost pulled a muscle in that match when he was recovering.
Yeah.
So he's not for me. As much as I love Robbo, he's one of my favourite ever players. But we need strengthening depth there, and I think we will do something in that position.
On to the season then. Obviously, we will get on to what happened last year because I've got a question I want to ask you in a minute as well. Do you think if Liverpool do get the centre back, they get in Isak, does that make them favourites this year for you to go back for the title?
If we sign a centre back, are we favourites?
Yeah, both Isak and centre back.
Ooh. Oh, it's won. It's already won.
Yeah.
Like, give it up. Don't bother. Don't bother turning up. If we get Isak and we get a centre back, it's. There's no other world in which that exists. We're winning number 21, 22, etc., etc. I expect more of a. So someone asked me a few weeks ago, would you rather win the Premier League or the Champions League? Retaining that Premier League title is the utmost importance this season because City's dominance has been expanded over the past decade nearly. We've won one in that time, and it's just sort of stuck in the middle of Pep's reign, and it just feels a bit like, we came back for a year or two, and then we dipped off slightly, and I want sustained league success. I want us to be able to go out there and win the Premier League again. It's so hard to do, and so few teams have done it, that should be the main focus and priority. And I think if we get a Guehi and Isak, that is guaranteed, as well as a push in the Champions League. But I'm not going to say win the double because I'm never going to wish that into existence because I feel like I'll jinx it. But yeah, a trophy at least alongside the Premier League.
Yeah, it's funny with that, isn't it? Because you can never really just say a team's going to win the Champions League. You never really know with knockout football.
Yeah.
But would you... Obviously, Liverpool got knocked out by PSG last year. Would you expect Liverpool to be more dominant if they came up against PSG again? Because I thought one of the things that surprised me was last year was how Arne Slot set up against PSG in the first game, and even
Mm,
though obviously Liverpool won that game, would you expect more impetus from the team? Would you expect them to maybe
mm,
go out and beat PSG, not just sit back? Not just PSG though, with any top team in the
yeah.
Champions League, would you expect them to be more likely to win the game than we kind of showed last year?
Oh, 100%. If I went into any match now and said,
Mm.
"Oh, not sure about this," I'd be lying, because last year we were going through Slot's transition, so to speak, which we technically were.
Yeah.
Won the Premier League, and we gave, as much as Arsenal fans like to rave that they gave PSG the best game, or best team in Europe, whatever. We gave PSG the best match last season, and I'm like across both legs. And we only lost on penalties because Nunez missed one and Curtis Jones missed one. Like, that's just luck of the draw.
Mm.
Now that we've strengthened in midfield, we've got extra energy in Florian Wirtz. Now that we've got a finisher up top, besides Salah and Gakpo, who's competent in front of goal. Obviously Jota was brilliant, but his injuries caught up to him, got a soul. But it just feels like we're more prepared on a grander stage. We went through a little bit of a dip towards the end of Klopp's reign. We had to make massive signings in midfield to accommodate for losing Fabinho and Henderson and Milner and Oxlade and Keita so quickly. But now it just feels like we've recovered from that, and we're in such a stable position that any team we play, be it Real Madrid, Bayern, Barcelona, Inter, any of them, we are capable of beating them. And I think if we came up against the PSG, who, brilliant team, greatest Champions League final performance ever, I have full faith that we could do it on the day.
Just a quick word then on some challenges because like you said, I do agree with you as well that if Liverpool were to sign a second grade, and it would take something miraculous for Liverpool to, I think, to not be close to winning the Premier League. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna say the word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously City have spent a fair amount of money so far this window. Arsenal as well have spent about another 200 million themselves. Subamendi and Gyökeres being the main ones. What have you made of both of their windows so far? What did you make of their seasons last year? And what do you expect from them this time around?
Well, Arsenal have done well, to be fair, this window. I mean, signing Gabriel and Saliba recently to long-term contracts. They've not lost anyone massive. Obviously, Ødegaard, Rice still there. Saka's sticking around. Lewis Skelly's been a revelation, but bringing in Zubamendi is massive for them in midfield. He's going to help them dictate the tempo of matches. You've also got Norgard, who I quite like the Norgard signing. I think Arsenal last season at points, the City game where they conceded in like the 94th minute, they lack having that person in midfield who's just going to get them over the line, like an Endo with us, who's got grit and physical power. Norgard's that player you can bring on for Arsenal who's just going to grind out a match. And Gyökeres, of course, I think he's a little bit overhyped, personally. It's not just an Arsenal thing. I just think you look at a lot of the goals he scored in the Portuguese league and you think, would you get those chances in the Premier League? A lot of penalties. But there's no denying that they've now acquired a goal scorer who's just an out-and-out, he's a striker. No Gabriel Jesus, no Kai Havertz. Perfect for them. So I think they're going to have a very, very good push for the title. City, I still think they're going to be in a bit of a collapse. It's just... losing De Bruyne is huge. They've done very well in signing Ryan Cherky. Reinders is a great signing. Aiton Nuri. Trafford's a good signing. But I think that there's too many things behind the scenes, and there's too much of an issue in their structure where if you lose Rodri, if you're that reliant on one player, much like we were in 2020 when we lost Van Dijk, I'll admit, but if they lose Rodri, they capitulate. He's just coming back from another injury. Pep looks like he's at his tether's end. I wouldn't be shocked if this was his last season, to be fair. So as well as City have done, I still expect a little bit of a capitulation from them. I still think they're going to be out of the title race before we get to that neck and neck point, and they'll be between us and Arsenal. I think longer than people think it will be.
Yeah, the Rodri point I think is really interesting as well because I've spoken about it a few times, and it seems that a lot of City fans just expect that they're going to get the same Rodri, but you never know with an ACL injury.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he is a 29-year-old now, and he might not get an ACL injury again, but he might have other issues. He might not be as quick on the pitch anymore. I think one of the interesting signings for City though this summer has been Ryan Cherky. obviously
Yeah.
Liverpool, I think, were linked with him. After they signed Florian Wirtz, he was seen as that. Oh, this was a backup for Liverpool with Ray and Cherky. What do you make of that signing? Because I'm not quite convinced by it. But do you think he is enough to kind of take on the mantle from Kevin De Bruyne and then push them towards any title challenge this year?
Oh, I mean, taking on De Bruyne's mantle's a big ask. Like one of the best midfielders the Premier League's ever seen. But I think it's a good signing. He is incredibly creative. Like it's not just what he does with the ball in a passing sense; it's his ability to running with it. He had the most successful take-ons in League One last season, I believe, or the top three, top 13% of all attackers across Europe. His touches in the penalty area gets 5.82 per 90, which is in the top 8% of wingers across the whole of Europe and midfielders as well. So they have signed an attacking threat, and I think that's what City lacked last season was the whole system revolves around get the ball to Haaland, and he'll just tap it in. And I think that's why Phil Foden suffered. I think that's why Jack Grealish suffered, Bernardo Silva, all these other players around them. Now it seems like they're bringing in more people back from the City of a few years ago where you've got midfielders who can score again, like when Gundogan was at his prime, back when they had Yaya Toure, David Silva, all these players. And they've strengthened around Haaland, not strengthened to accommodate him. And Ryan Cherky, while there is question marks, he is still a young lad. He's only 21 years old. But there's a reason why we were interested. There's a reason why United wants him. There's a reason why Real Madrid supposedly wants them, because he's a very talented player who is capable of playing in a multitude of the positions. And while I don't think he's going to be world class per se, I think that this is someone who a few weeks, few months down the line we could look at and go, he is actually quite good, to be fair. So I think that's a good sign for City personally.
Just before I throw some quick fire questions at you, I didn't tell you I was going to do that, but I'm going to do
Oh, thanks.
that. A few obvious people I think we need to talk about here, but let's start with last season. What did you we can kind of throw that into both Slot and Salah. What did you make of last season? Were you expecting anything from Liverpool? What did you make of Arne Slot in his first season? What have you made of him as a manager to take the club forward as well? What's been your overall opinions over the last year with Liverpool?
I have been blown away, in all honesty. Like I going into last season, I'm a firm believer of if you're having a transition season or an off season, winning a trophy is the perfect way to continue that trend. Just a League Cup, just something just to keep things ticking along and show that we're still competing in some form. Never in a million years did I think Slot would come in, take players like Gravenberch, make them better. I'd say he's made Szoboszlai better personally. And Salah, turn him into the greatest individual season that top flight English football's ever seen, arguably. People say Ronaldo 08, people say Shearer, people say Cole, none of it. That is the greatest thing. And I'm so amazed by not just the manner of which he's conducted his things on the pitch, it's his approach to press conferences. Like, he came into a situation where he was replacing Klopp. Every question was about Klopp. Salah, Van Dijk, Trent contracts running out. A summer window which saw us spend little to no money. And it just never bothered him. He just seemed so composed. He'd say the right things at the right time, and he just kept it ticking along. Didn't give anything away. Bar the Everton game where he lost his rag a little bit. I would have as well. I think most of us would have. He's been calm and composed, and I think that's what we needed. We needed the opposite to Klopp. If he'd have come in, started doing the fist pump, started cheering up the fans, it would have felt like an imitator. He's come in and done the exact opposite. He's calmed it down. He's added a coldness to us, and I like that. I like that he's more, not tactically versed, because Klopp's one of the greatest of all time, but it just feels like he sees the game different to how Klopp did, and I'm a big, big fan of it so far. And long may it continue.
Do you expect him to manage the transition of losing Van Dijk and Salah when that eventually happens? I know this is quite a long way away as well. But do you expect him to be able to manage that effectively? Because we see a lot with managers where they can build a team, but then when they have to replace that team, it doesn't quite work out for them. Losing two big components, do you see enough now that says to you in 2 to 3 years' time that he will be the right man for Liverpool when they go, because he'll be able to manage that situation?
It's hard. It's really, really hard to say, because I don't think many managers of our Premier League era have had to transition
Mm,
as such into, like, Houllier did it when we lost Fowler, but that was his decision at the end of the day.
mm,
You know, Rodgers lost Suarez. That transition didn't go well. He then lost Gerrard. That transition didn't go well. So
mm.
it's hard to say because this is two world-class talents who are some of the greatest in Premier League history. I think I'd need to see where we are building up to it. If we're in the same position that we are now with the players we've got, I'd think, yeah, I think he can do it. But at that point, it's going to be a different squad. Players will have come, players will have gone. I have faith that he'd be able to do it because he's not given me anything so far to prove that he couldn't. But there's a big difference between taking over Klopp and inheriting brilliant players to then taking over Klopp and losing those brilliant players. It's how he goes into the next transition. Klopp didn't even really want to do the transition. He said himself, like, I'm tired. I can't do another transition period into the next team. So we'll just have to wait and see with that. But if it's at the moment, I've got plenty of confidence.
And then lastly, Mohamed Salah, you mentioned it before. Unbelievable season from last year. Do you expect him to just go to otherworldly strengths this year? Especially if they sign Isak, do you expect him to go to another level on his creative side this year?
Yeah. Look at that. Look at that. The Bilbao match, like the passes he was putting into Gakpo and stuff. He's otherworldly at the minute. Yeah, I think if we get an Isak, Salah, like I said before, he did what he did in spite of Nunez. So having someone who we can just put the ball to, like him and Nunez had that little purple patch in 2022, 2023, whenever it was, where they went like 6-7 games scoring in every single game and assists and blah blah blah. Having an Isak next to him or an Ekitike is just going to propel his creativity to the next level. So yeah, fully look forward to that if it does come off. I think Salah's going to be even better next season.
Right, are you ready for some quick fire questions?
Yes,
then? I do have quite a few.
yes. That's fine. Crack on, man. Happy to.
So this one literally just came to me this morning, actually. What surprised you more? What could surprise you more? Liverpool spending 100 million twice in the same window on two players, or Liverpool winning the Premier League title last year? What would surprise you more?
Oh God, us winning the Premier League title last summer.
How many more signings will Liverpool make?
2.
The midfield when everyone's fit.
McAllister, Gravenberch, Florian Wirtz.
Who will end the season as Liverpool's top goal scorer? Isak or no Isak?
Isak or no Isak? Oh, Salah. It's got to be Mo Salah, undeniably.
How many?
In all competitions or like just the Prem?
Both.
Oh God, I don't think he's going to have as good a season goal scoring form. I think 22 in the Premier League, all competitions. I'd say 30 because he's not going to play many of the cup matches. So yeah, 30 goals, all competitions.
Will he break Henry's 2020?
Sorry, that broke up a little. Will he what? Sorry.
Will he break Henry's 2020 season? 20 goals, 20 assists.
No, I don't think anyone will get the 20 assists for a while.
Who will be Liverpool's player of the year?
Oh God. See, I want to pick Salah again, but I'm gonna shake it up. I think Florian Wirtz. I do have a sneaking suspicion he's going to be the best midfielder in the league next summer. No bias.
On to Wirtz. How many goals and assists do you think he'll get this year?
How many goals will Florian Wirtz get? Oh,
and assists as well.
He's been an assist. God, he's been quite attacking in the preseason, so I'd say 11 goals. Just random number. I think that was Coutinho's last amount that he got for us actually, or in the Sadio Mane season, the season before. I think it'd be a decent number for him.
You kind of said it there already, but I'll ask again. League player of the year.
Oh, like just in the Premier League as a whole?
Yeah. Premier League player.
League player of the year. Oh, God. I mean, I said Wirtz would be the best midfielder. I said he'd win our player of the year. So Florian Wirtz, I guess. I've backed myself into a corner there. Yeah, Florian Wirtz.
Where will Manchester United finish this season?
Oh, mate. I did a thing the other day and Alice said they were going to finish 10th. Not a chance. I think 12th. I think 12th for United.
Who will be the top four this season at the end? Premier League.
Think Chelsea. No, City third, Chelsea fourth. Play it safe.
And then the the most important question: what will be the final score this weekend? Charity Shield versus Crystal Palace.
With the atmosphere and the occasion, but I think as the match goes on, they've got a lack of depth on the bench. I think that's where we'll really start to get at them. So 2-1, Liverpool win.
Amazing. That would be a great start of the season, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you very
I look
much
for it.
For joining me today. Unless there's anything else you'd like to add.
No, just thank you for having me. I really, really fun. I like the quick fire bit. That was fun. I enjoyed that.
Well, thank you very much. For people who don't know, where can they find you?
It's Beyond the Kop. I hate doing I'm so bad at doing them, but yeah, Beyond the Kop.
Me too.
YouTube, Twitter, and yeah, you might see me on a few other things. I do Redmen every now and then as well, but yeah, Beyond the Kop's the main one. That's the big thing.
Yeah, perfect. Definitely check him out. You do some really good stuff. I've been keeping up to date with you lately. Please like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. We're trying to reach 500 subscribers by the start of the new season. I don't think that's going to happen in a week. But anyway, if you could please subscribe, that'd be really appreciated by all of us. And we'll see you soon. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.